read Britannia, which is one of the new set of books being produced by Valiant Comics. The two or three questions I had when picking up this book were, obviously, is it any good? Does it tie into the main Valiant universe as we know it? And is it going to develop that universe in any way? First off, it's set in the Roman times around the age of Nero. He's the current emperor of Rome, and it features a Roman soldier who's sent to go and rescue a Vestal Virgin. The Vestal Virgins sit almost to the side of Nero as far as power goes, and they act as a opposing sort of regulatory force to him. They have sway with the government and the people, and they keep the Vestal flame alight, which apparently if it goes out, Rome will crumble. They have their own motivations as opposed to Nero, and they use their power to achieve them. There is a demon cult that has captured this one Vestal Virgin, and obviously our hero, the soldier, goes and rescues her, but when he does so, he gets exposed to a demonic presence of some sort that essentially causes him to have a nervous breakdown or a sort of bit of shell shock, something in between the two. He gets taken in by the Vestal Virgins, and they rebuild him, and they undertake a number of rites and rituals with him, and they give him access to their codex, which is a sort of book of knowledge. But the way it's described, it's a little bit more than that. Whether that's going to be explored later, I don't know. Anyway, he comes out of it, and he's now working as a detective, because the codex has informed him of looking for clues and picking up on traits, etc. in people, like Sherlock Holmes style. So he looks at a crime scene and he can actually analyse it rather than just go and jump into superstition or jump into conclusions. He actually analyses a crime scene. He's just about holding it together psychologically. He then gets sent to Britannia because they're having issues with legions going missing, and there being rumours of occult presences. The Vestal Virgins select him to go and suggest to Nero that he should go. Nero, by the way, isn't a very good emperor. He goes with his slave to Britain and encounters similar demonic presences to those that he found in Rome. Then he starts to have a relapse of all of his psychological problems. There's interactions with the local villagers, there's things about druids and things about local mysticism, and without spoiling the end, things happen to him that develop his character. The only thing I couldn't understand is he ends up back in Rome at the end. Quite how they're going to keep this series called Britannia going, I don't know if he's not in Britain, but obviously there'll be reasons for him to either be posted there or relocate there because of some issue. Does it tie into the larger Valiant universe? Not sure yet. There's no reference that I can see to anything else in the Valiant universe. We know there's obviously the dead side, and there's this sort of psyop thing with people having their superpowers. Whether or not the rites and rituals that he was exposed to by the Vestal Virgins either awakened a sort of psyop power within him of some sort, or it was to do with the dead side, isn't clarified or explained. I'm sure they may develop that further. Valiant always has a plan for how these things tie in together, so I'm sure that'll get touched on in later volumes. Is it any good? Yeah, it's good. So I read some other reviews of people saying they didn't know what was going on and it was confusing. I'm not quite sure where they got those from. Ultimately, if you read it and you pay attention to what's going on, it's a pretty straightforward story. There's a bit of magic and mysticism, but ultimately that's the whole point of the style of book that it is. It's more of a sort of mystery book than it is a straightforward action comic. It's worth a read, at least for picking up the first issue if you want something different. It's set in Roman times, it's quite violent, quite bloody. It's, as ever with the Valiant stuff, really well drawn. You can never fault the artwork, and there's not a level of overwriting, which is where there's too much text on a page. There is a rule floating around somewhere that you should only have so many words per panel or page with a comic book. Not quite sure what the level of it is, but you can certainly tell it when you encounter it if it's been broken. One book I read recently, The Punisher War Journal, that seems to have far too much text on some pages that just ruins it for you. I think it's worth picking up, particularly at the low Volume 1 trade prices that Valiant put their books out at. If you want to get a grounding as to where the Valiant universe is now, I certainly think it's worth getting, and hopefully it will tie in to other stories if they're clever enough and they can weave this into the fabric of the universe. And it's nice to just read something that isn't set in modern times and has this sort of Roman ancient setting without being too heavy duty. There's also a good secondary character in this book as well, that's his slave, who chooses to be a slave because his life's better living with the main character, who's actually quite a nice guy, than being a free man. And he provides a lot of the comic relief in the story as well, which there is comic relief. So if you've read it and you enjoyed it, or you got different views, or you know something about how it ties in, please mention it in the comments. Otherwise, hope you enjoy reading it.